Stop everything. You should absolutely sell your house and move today. Okay, obviously I'm totally kidding, but now that I have your attention, I'm sure you've heard this 100 times. Do not give up your 3% interest rate. And sure, for many people that absolutely makes a lot of sense, but here's another angle to that you may not have heard. Does that low interest rate that you have mean that you should absolutely not consider moving? You shouldn't move in 2026, even if your home no longer meets your current lifestyle needs. Hey, real quick, if this is your first time here, my name's Jose, and here we help Inland Empire homeowners sell smart, buy their next home better, and ultimately move with confidence. So if you are even thinking about making a move, don't hesitate to reach out. You'll find my contact information down below. We help people just like you every single day. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and get into this. Okay, so if we start by looking at your 3% interest rate, or whatever your rate is, that's your payment, or it determines your payment. And obviously the payment's important because if you were buying the exact same house at a 3% interest rate versus an 8% interest rate for most people, that could be the difference between taking a vacation every year versus not even being able to afford the house at all. The only flip side to that I'd say is worth looking at or worth considering is just what is it costing you to stay in the home? Such as, for example, maybe it's the extra bedroom that you really need for your growing family, but you don't have. Or maybe it's the commute home from work that costs you lost time with your family every evening. Or maybe it's the school district that you'd really prefer your kids to be in, but they aren't. Again, make no mistake, the interest rate or the payment is definitely important, no doubt about it. But also, what should be part of the question is whether or not the house even works for you anymore. If you're like most homeowners that are even thinking about making a move, well, I'm sure you've run the numbers, I'm sure you've done the math, getting an idea. And what's our payment going to roughly look like if we did make a move, thanks to the fact that rates have obviously gone up since we had the historic lows that we saw just a few years ago. But haven't home values gone up since then too? Meaning, how much equity do you have now? Fortunately, because of the equity growth that we've seen since then, for many people, it can help make that decision a little bit easier. But the truth of the matter is, you have a decision that only you, not no one else, but only you can answer. Just how important is that extra room that you don't have? Or how important is the lost time with your family because of the commute? Or the school district that you'd rather your kids be a part of, but are not? Or just whatever it is that got you thinking about making that move, just how important is that to you? I guess what I'm trying to say is that yes, for some people, higher interest rates means it really does not make a lot of sense to make a move right now. But for others, the higher rates don't necessarily automatically mean that a move makes no sense. Because I've sat down with a few people here recently and they had different reasons why they were thinking about making a move, but because the higher rates, they were talking themselves out of it. I don't know, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But after we really sat down, looked at the numbers, kind of crunched it all out, how it could play out if they did end up deciding to make a move, pros and cons, whether they should move or whether it just makes no sense to move. But and I won't say for all, but for some, still actually made sense. And they did end up deciding to go ahead and make the move. Hey, before we do go any further, if you are in fact thinking about doing that and you're like anyone else that's thinking about doing that, about being able to sell your house in order to go out and buy a new home, and you're concerned, I don't want to make any mistakes, there's a few moving parts going on here. Well, I put together a free guide, the top 7 most costly mistakes you can make when doing that, when selling your house in order to go out and buy a new home. It'll walk you through exactly what to do, exactly, more importantly, how to avoid those costly mistakes when you're trying to do that. You can grab that after the video, but you'll find the link for that down below. So if you're a homeowner that's trying to do that, trying to weigh the costs of whether or not it makes sense to go ahead and make the move, or whether it makes more sense to go ahead and stay put, I would do this. I would look at 3 things. Number 1, and maybe most importantly, where's your equity at right now? We talked a little bit about this earlier, but if you have been in your home for a bit now, it is possible that you might have a little more equity in your home than you realize. Yeah, even with everything that's happened in the market recently. The point though is just you might have enough equity there to make the whole move a very possible thing to do. Because again, it depends on how long you've lived there obviously, but you may potentially have enough equity to be able to take and use to be able to make a major down payment on your next home, or maybe even just pay for the next home in cash. Number two, what does your real new payment look like? Not the scary headline that you see online, but the actual number based on your current equity and just your current situation. Because like I was just saying, many homeowners might look at the numbers, look at rates and think, oh man, the payment's gonna be this crazy, unmanageable number. But when you look at your numbers, your situation, based on your equity, I mean, for some, and maybe not necessarily for everyone, but for some, yeah, that payment could end up being a lot more manageable than you expected. And number three, how much longer are you willing to live in a home that doesn't work for you anymore? The first two are all about the numbers, the math. I mean, you can see them on paper, but this one's not all about the finance. And for some, it could actually matter more than the first two. If the space or the layout or the location just don't work for you like it used to, or maybe it's even just draining you today, that's obviously not a cost that's going to show up on a mortgage statement, but make no mistake, that is a cost too. The point though is that yes, obviously interest rates are important. I mean, they determine your payment, and if the payment's not going to work for you, then it's over. I mean, the discussion's over. There's nothing left to talk about. But if after you look at your real numbers, then you will know whether or not you should stick around and hold on to your interest rate. And look, I don't want this to sound like I'm trying to convince you into moving. I mean, not at all. Whether you move today, tomorrow, next year, I mean, either way, it doesn't matter. I'll still be here, more than happy to help. No, my whole intention here is to be able to help you go into this and to be able to make a confident decision on what you should do, whether you should not make a move, whether you should stay where you're at for now, but whether you should stay where you're at or whether you should go ahead and do that. Go ahead and make the move now. Either way, I mean, I just want to be able to help you go into that decision confidently. But I will say this though, that's not the whole story, because that's really only one piece to this, because I do find many homeowners that oftentimes will go into this not really realizing or not thinking about the next piece to all this, and that is, if your house is not paid off, which I think is safe to say is probably the case for most people, but if your house is not paid off, then what actually happens to your current mortgage? I mean, how does that all work out? That is something that I have found that trips up quite a few people. So to make sure that's not you, to make sure that you have a complete understanding, that you know exactly how that's going to work going into this, well then, you're definitely going to want to catch this video next, where I break that down in detail. I'll catch you over there.